We're working on a Sovema EM/272 mower, and we're replacing the bearings in the, we'll call it a quill assembly that runs the blade. Now we're using no special tools other than what you see here, just regular hand tools, a large Wilton bullet vise, and a stack of these washers right here. And I want to give you the size. The inside diameter of this washer is about 29 millimeters. And that's the important part, is the inside diameter. Now, we're pushing these bearings on the jack shaft, I'll call it, this piece here. We're using this spacer to push against the inside race and stacking these washers here, and then using the nut to push the bearings in. The bearing number is right here. It's a 6205 ORS bearing. We'll leave that right there for a while. This was available at my local bearing supply. I did not have to do anything special. I suppose you could get these online. Now, with these bearings, you see here I have removed the two seals for the bottom bearing. And we'll talk about that later. The top bearing retains the seals. There's a grease fitting at the top of the jack shaft, and it's cross drilled so that when you pump grease in here, it goes through this bottom bearing and out the weep hole. Alright, and to talk about a few points on the schematic with your mower. You see here the jack shaft here, and you see this piece here, 54 and 55 are shown separate. But mine is one piece. The plate at the bottom and the jack shaft, that's all one piece. 55 and 54 is one piece. So keep that in mind. And everything else, the spacers, the keyways, all that works together. But the bearing numbers, number 59 and number 59, it's the same bearing. The bottom one has the seals removed. And I also note one of these seals is laid in the bottom of this assembly. It's just laid in there. If you don't remove that seal, the grease can't go through it. So we're pushing it together with the hardware that's supplied with the mower and nothing else. We don't have any special pullers, and we just got basic hand tools here. To take it apart, the vise was necessary, and I used the blade retention bolt that holds the blade on, and we put the quill in here upside down and tighten the blade up to pull it out. So we'll lay that to the side, and we'll begin to show you this method that we use to put this thing together. So plenty of grease on everything. Stack me up some washers here, and I remove this number of washers till I've got room to get my nut on. The nut in addition to the little spacer that we're talking about right here. Okay, now that's got to be in there to push against our bearing. Now these are just cheap washers available at Tractor Supply, if you have a Tractor Supply. This is a Sovema mower. It is Italian made. I've got about 1,200 hours on this one. It's been a really good unit. So, as I just said, and here's that engine assembly lube. I use this with all kinds of stuff, engines included, but doing something like this where you're pressing, you want some high pressure grease at the very least. To disassemble, to get this nut off, it's kind of odd. You can either make a socket. I used a brass punch to knock this thing apart, and then I'm holding it in the vise, and brass will save your parts, keep you from breaking anything. So Take your time with this. Don't force anything if you don't have to. I understand sometimes we have to. I'll get this in the vise and kind of show you what's going on here. So I'm trying to get lined up on the flats. That's not anything real important, but I'm trying to do that. Now, on the bottom of this piece that holds the blade, I have a 3-inch C-clamp, and that's what I'm using for a wrench. Initially, I was using an 1 3/4 combination wrench. That's big. You don't have to have that. This thing has got flat sides on it, and that's just happens to be what I'm using. Now, these tolerances are not real tight, but you don't want to beat on this stuff with a hammer. Normally I would use a torch and heat these castings up if it were real tight, but it's not real tight. We're fortunate to not have to be using heat even. So and I'll also note that my vise is not bolted down. It's just a good heavy vise. And we're turning this nut and it's pushing these washers. The washers are pushing against the inside race of this bearing and it's pressing it all together. And we're going slow. We're not beating on anything. And the C-clamp I'm using is just a little cheap C-clamp. Nothing expensive and nothing extraordinary. And we'll run this down until we run out of space. We'll take the nut off, add another washer, and we'll start again. And continue this process until we get it done. Alright, thank you for watching. When we get this done, we'll go to the mower and we'll assemble it in the mower. Also, we'll do a playlist and I'll show you how to break this thing down as well if you haven't already seen that. I don't know what order all this will go, but thank you for watching.